Hi, I'm Scott Gentry, and I'm here today with Chris Carothers. You know him from your insurance agency. We talk to him every Thursday morning at 8:30, and we talk about insurance and all the different things that are happening in insurance. So Chris and I were talking about the problems that they're having in Washington with the budget, whether they're going to do an extension to the budget so that they can get some things accomplished or not. The ACA, the Affordable Care Act, credits are expiring. Chris and I decided that we would do a long-form show and talk more in depth about some of these things and how they affect you. Now, this is not a right or left-wing conversation. We want to talk about how this is going to affect you. And so that's why we've dedicated this time to it. It really isn't a Republican or Democrat problem. It's a problem for government. A lot of it hinges around this ACA, or the Affordable Care Act. What are the credits? How are they going to be affected, Chris?
You're right about it affects everyone. I know that it's a funding issue that we're addressing, but the bottom line is the Affordable Care Act was passed in 2010, went into effect January of 2014. Mm-hmm. And what happened with the Affordable Care Act, there's no waiting period for pre-existing conditions. There's no exclusions. All are welcome regardless of health.
Right.
And then on top of that, there's unlimited lifetime maximums. There's no cap on, you're going to run out of insurance for your cancer or whatever that could be a major issue, right? So it opened up the gate to where people don't have to worry about being turned down. What happened initially is the carriers said, how do we price this? We can't put a price on something we've never insured before. So the government had to put some things in there to kind of help make this work for everyone. So there's a lot more behind the scenes that I could never have unpacked in this short little podcast we're doing. But the point is that we have these tax credits there to help people buy insurance. It's not just the people that are poor get help or the rich can afford it. They had to find a way where everyone can benefit by it. The premiums were based on a percentage of your income. Okay. So based on your household income, household is defined as who's on your tax return, and based on your adjusted gross income, which is basically line 11 of your 1040, essentially that's the number, and we would take it times a percentage of your income, and the rest of it, whatever your premium is, that would be reduced by what the government was going to help offset. So bottom line is that if your income is $50,000 for your household, you would times that by a factor, which was 6.5% is what it was originally. And then you take that and divide it by 12 months in a year. So all of a sudden a family of four, the premium would be about $270 a month, minus or greater than that number based on if you were buying up in benefits.
Right.
But your premium for your family could still be like $2,000, $2,500 a month total, but your portion was based on a percentage of your income.
Where did the rest of it go?
Well, the rest of it was being paid by the federal government with tax credits, right?
And people have to understand that because that impacts the budget for the country.
It does. That ship has sailed. That was how it was written. So we're living with that law, and that's still in place. So you can't just get rid of tax credits because insurance is now unaffordable. I mean, if you came to me right now at age 45, a silver plan, you're going to be spending at least $450 a month for health insurance. Mm-hmm. If you're, a husband and wife 60 years old, you're going to be paying at least $1,000 a month each. Insurance, it's not affordable. So we need those tax credits to help offset the cost of insurance. Now, obviously, if you're rich, you can afford whatever you want. I got it. But if you're limited on your income and resources, you need help. And that's not just the poor, it's the middle class. It's everyone benefits by it. So what's going on with the budget is that when they had the American Rescue Plan, which was under the Biden administration when they gave extra tax credits help during COVID, right? We all remember that. That's set to expire at the end of the year.
That actually happened in the Trump administration. They left it for the Biden administration, right?
And so it got passed. And so what happened was that, they actually created the American Rescue Plan tax credits where they lowered the percentage of your income, which means they gave you more help. But then also there was a cliff. What that meant is that if anyone over the 400% of the federal poverty level, once you were $1 over that number, basically there were no tax credits. If you were back in 2021, if you made $51,521, there was no help. $51,000 isn't a great amount of money.
No, it's a pretty average.
And so the thing is that they weren't getting any help. And if your employer didn't offer you benefits, you had to pay the full cost of insurance.
Right.
And so That has, with inflation since 2021, that number today at 400% is $60,000, $60,240. So if they made $60,241, there would be no help with your premiums, okay? And that's what's going to be reinstated, when it sunsets at the end of this year. So they're anticipating a lot of people dropping insurance because they won't be able to afford it. And so literally they're expecting 30 to 40% of the people will drop their health plans that are getting help through the government, through our plans right now.
At first, I'm sure people go, oh, well, that's okay, but it's not okay because everyone's funding everyone.
The insurance companies base their premiums based on the total risk. So what happens is one of the things that they did is called risk. I'm not going to do the risk corridor insurance. It's called an MLR, minimum loss ratio. Basically, what that means is of every dollar in premiums the carrier collects, 80 cents of it has to go directly to benefits. If it's not used on the benefits, they have to refund it. So wait a minute, I don't use my insurance, so where's my money back? No, it doesn't work that way. It's based on the entire block of business in the state of Nevada, for example. The carrier has to spend 80 cents on every dollar to go towards benefits. And then what happens, the company runs on the 20 cents. It covers their profits. It covers their employees. It covers their technology. It covers any extra risk that may come in over that 80%, 80 cents on the dollar. And then it also covers brokers' commissions and things like that. So what happens is if they don't use that full 80 cents, they have to refund it back to the insureds. How often does it happen? Have you seen any refunds on your insurance?
No, not at all.
No, because healthcare keeps going up, the cost of healthcare, right? And so there are stopgaps. So the carriers just can't charge what they want to make more money. They want to be competitive. They want to be in business. But at the same time, though, there's stopgaps in there to protect the insureds, know that they're the right rates, and the carriers can make a little bit of money, but it's based on volume. And if the carriers cannot charge the right rates, if it becomes unaffordable because they lose the tax credits, who's going to sign up?
A lot of people will take chances and just not sign up at all.
Well, the people that take chances are the ones that are healthy.
Yes, but also if they feel like they don't have the money and they're not going to get it, they're still going to be the ones that go to the hospital, and someone has to pick up that bill.
Correct. So if you don't have everyone coming on board, right?
Right.
Then what happens is the only people that are buying are the ones that use it. They want to get pregnant. They're sick. Whatever the situation is, they're going to buy the insurance because they need it. Well, they're going to pay higher and higher rates because the healthy people aren't buying it. So you need everyone to get on board because then that brings the average cost down.
In order for it to be a fair system, that's true.
Yeah. Even if you said, well, look, I'll just go to the hospital and then I'll leave the bill for the hospital. Well, guess what? Guess who still pays for it? We do. The hospital charges the insurance company higher rates because of their losses from people that don't pay their bills.
And if those things don't get paid, hospitals go bankrupt.
Right. Ultimately, everything comes back to us all paying for it. Right. So the government created the Affordable Care Act. They created this situation. Whether good or bad, it's not important. What's important is what we live with today. We can't change it. So the issue is that we were gifted with this American Rescue Plan additional tax credits. And the reason why I don't want it to sunset is because the middle class didn't get any help. What I found was people, before they extended the tax credits to make it where it phased out, you can be making $150,000 and still getting help at some point.
Right.
But my point is that what I discovered when I sold insurance is that people purposely made less money because the government was the only way the government was going to help them pay for their insurance. Once you had the American Rescue Plan, guess what? Everyone, didn't matter if they worked harder because there was still incentive there for them to get help. But when you take the incentive away, where if I make $1 over this number, I don't get any help. I want to make sure I make less because otherwise I can't afford insurance for my family or myself. It's really a strange thing that happened, a phenomenon that happened. So these tax credits are very, very important. And here we are dealing with a government who's facing the shutdown, as you mentioned, right?
Right.
And they're playing with their lives right now.
They're playing politics with our life. And that upsets me with both parties. And we're not involved enough in getting their attention, I don't think, because we should call our representatives and we should talk to them and say, this is what I'd like you to do. But in order to do that, they have to understand it first, because I'm not sure that everyone's on board with the understanding part.
Right.
They're throwing stones at each other. You just want to, have these benefits for the rich and not the poor. And then the others are saying, yeah, well, no, we're doing everything we can to help the poor. You're doing nothing to help the rich.
Right.
And you're hurting companies and everything else. It really is a bad situation, and it creates a lot of the angst between different groups of people, different income groups, different ethnicities. Everyone's affected by this.
They don't understand it. They're not fully embracing it. People in the boots on the ground like myself and many others realize what's happening. And that's why it's so important that we have a voice and we let our representatives know. And so I've been very active, biting at their heels, if you will, nipping their heels, saying, hey guys, wake up, wake up, wake up. We got to address this. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. This is impacting us, and this is going to be a huge issue. There's a couple things you guys can do. You need to find out who your representative is if you don't know who that person is. You can go to congress.gov/members. That's a www. Go to the website, congress.gov/members, and then you can put in your address or you can give them a call. If you need more information, I'm happy to give it to you. Please reach out to me if you need more confidence to be able to make a phone call or reach out. It's that simple. All you have to say, please extend the tax credits. That's all you have to do. America cannot afford insurance. We can't afford anything right now, quite frankly. To go without insurance is going to be a real problem in our country. I don't want people to have to buy some limited piece of garbage insurance plan off the internet. That's not the real thing, because when you get sick and you find out that there's no coverage for those important things that are serious, I can't stomach that. And that's what's given me the fire in my belly to say, guys, we got to fight for this. I've been reaching out to all of our representatives, Dina Titus, Mark Amade, Susie Lee, Stephen Horsford, our senators, Jackie Rosen and Catherine Cortez Masto, our other senator. I do have relationships with them, some of them more, some are less. I do want to thank Susie Lee, Congresswoman. She signed on and she co-signed the bill to extend the tax credits at least one more year. I know they'd like to do it longer than 1 year, but they're willing to compromise with the Republican side. Let's just do one more year. Let's get this thing figured out.
I think it's obvious that Susie Lee is thinking about us.
She is.
And so is Catherine Cortez Masto. My question, though, is, do you think they're going to be able to figure it out?
They're going to figure something out, but the problem is they're getting noise from other outsiders. There's an article that came out with leaders of 35 conservative organizations urging President Trump to allow the Affordable Care Act subsidies to expire at the end of the year.
And who are these groups?
They didn't say who they are, but it's more like they want it to expire. They want it to be a free market, but they don't understand how free market works because of the way the Affordable Care Act works. These carriers are going to charge more money because they have to cover the sick people.
More expense.
It's going to be more expensive. So in Nevada, we're having an average of 17.5% rate increase on our health insurance premiums come the first of the year. The Republicans we have till the end of the year to fix this. I'm like, no, you don't. You do, but you don't. And the reason why I say that, the first look where you can go to our state exchange, which is called Nevada Health Link, they'll be able to start to view that 2026 benefits beginning October 1st.
Right.
That's in 2 days from this recording. So all of a sudden, they're going to see no tax credits? You think they're going to panic or I can't afford this? I'm concerned about that. That's why if they extended the tax credits, carriers were willing to put the extra effort in to refile their rates because they could lower them a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have enough time. You got to get carriers to do it. You have to get the Department of Insurance to approve the rates and so on. Even though they say they have till the end of the year, they do, but they don't because of all the things that have to happen in place to make it work. And that's the concern of the timelines. And so
when you call your representative,
mm-hmm.
you want to encourage them to extend the Affordable Care Act.
Yes, we want them to extend the tax credits. We do not want they call it the cliff, but basically we want them to continue the American Rescue Plan tax credits.
For at least a year.
Yep, and that would be a great start. When I talked to one of the senator's offices, they said that the actual cost could be as much as $50 billion a year. I know that's a lot of money, but not when it comes to the government and what it spends and what it's been bringing in on other sources of revenue that they've been recently generating. So imagine right now, if you were to come to me and you were that family of 4 making $50,000, which is not a lot of money, your premiums would be $83 a month on the exchange. Okay, approximately. It can be higher or lower depending on the plan. Come the first of the year, if they don't make this change, that same family of 4 is going to be paying $271 a month. That's basically $200 a month increase.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're making $50,000 a year as a household,
you just knock $12,000 out.
They don't have it. They just don't. And so the thing is that we need to make sure that we extended tax credits. And then for those that are, making just over the 400%, you're not going to get any help at all. You're going to pay 100%. So if you're a husband and wife making $81,761 on the exchange, you could be paying $580. You'll be paying $2,000.
Wow.
That's not sustainable when you're getting 60 years old. You're working towards retirement. That's a house payment and then some, right? So we need them to extend it. We need them to come together in a bipartisan way. We can't be so divided as it's become.
You cannot be together when you're throwing barbs at each other. That's not how you get along. You get along by saying, let's do this together. We can do this. We have the expertise. We have the brains in the houses of Congress. Why can't we just sit down and really do this for the American people? And we'll both take credit for it.
Yes.
And the independents can take credit too. It's not a war we want to fight.
It's not. And, the other thing that came up in our conversation too is on Medicaid. How is Medicaid going to be impacted? And so Medicaid, some of the things that they did under the big, beautiful bill basically was that they wanted people to have to work. You can't just have Medicaid and be a part of the system and not attempt to work. Now, they have some boundaries in there, like some people can't work because they have health issues or mental health issues. That's okay. They want people at least volunteer, do something to give back. And so the other thing they want to do is I heard that they wanted to start putting a little bit of cost share in there. The more money you make, you have a copay or something. Mm-hmm. Again, I haven't seen that, but that's some of the things I've heard. The other thing we talked about, the illegals. Everyone wants to talk that, right? Throw that in there. Well, we're in a strange place because we've had people that are here in this country that are taxpayers, and they may be not legally here, but they've paid taxes. They've paid into the system. Don't you think that'd be nice if they got something back if they've been legally working here? You gotta ask that question. Granted, everyone's different places on that, but that's one thought. But the ones that are here that are illegal, that actually have been getting free things and they're not contributing, that's another. And that's where the argument's been. How do we pay for these people if they're illegally here? And so that's what they've been addressing, and that's what they're part of the reason why they're fighting over it is because there's different polar ideas on that, right?
Well, and that fits into the thing that the president said just the other day to the United Nations. He said, illegal immigration in your country will eventually destroy you. What your heart says is one thing. What your pocketbook says is something totally different.
Yeah.
And you have to be responsible, fiscally responsible. And of course, responsible to your feelings too. Yeah,
it is a tough place, isn't it? And that is the thing is that what can we afford to do? And yes, we're supposed to help our neighbor and all these things. We know all that, but there is a point of responsibility to ourselves first, right? And responsible to your family, responsible to our country, and then
to your neighbors,
right? And how do we address all that? And the other thing is too is that the hospitals are protected by Medicaid. If you, for the emergencies, you've heard of people that maybe don't have insurance or maybe not legally here or legally here. It doesn't matter.
Right.
If you go into the emergency room and there's a true emergency, the state actually comes in and pays the bill if there's no resources or money to help pay it, right? Again, there's a lot of boundaries in there. I'm going to kind of keep it high level for this conversation. But that's important. People say, well, cut it out. Well, you don't understand. If you cut that funding, guess who pays for it? The people that have insurance. The hospital charges more money for services for the ones that are not paying for the services. So everything works together. We can't be so polar in our thoughts in one way and think we got it all figured out when it's much grander than we realize. There's things that have happened over the years to help society. And whether you agree or disagree, they're already in place. And so to just, lop off an arm thinking that's the solution doesn't necessarily solve the problem, right? And so it's much grander than that. So we need to come to the table and actually have a conversation and try to find a solution because there's always a cause and effect. You do one thing, causes another thing. And that's why this is something pretty radical that's happening with these tax credits expiring. As much as, we don't want to financially pay for it, but once you've finally got people on the plan, they're going to lose their insurance. And on top of it, I think the most important part, it doesn't force people to say, I want to make less. I'm going to work less, make less, so I can get help from the government. I want people to be incentivized to work. Hey, I work more. I still get help. I make more. And there's a phase out where you don't get any help. No problem. I'm a taxpayer. I'm getting something for my hard work. That's why I like not having the cliff. And that's why I think it's important.
I have a very diversified family. I have a wife from Canada. I have in-laws from Mexico. Those of us who were raised in this country, all of us are legal, but we all have different problems. When I look at the homogenization of our cultures in the U.S., it's a grand thing. Mm-hmm. It's a really grand thing. I think we have to be really cognizant of the burdens that we put on our country. It's important that we play by the rules and that people are here for the right reasons and legally. And it's important that we do all we can do to keep the country healthy and not, try to sour the system or anything like that. Because people do try to take advantage of things. And we should try to stay away from that as much as possible because it's good for all of us. I think that the best thing to do at this point is to get a hold of your representative, either your senators or your congresspeople, and let them know how you feel and tell them, look, do this for the country. Even if you're a Democrat, contact a Republican House of Representatives person or a senator. We should be contacting both sides because we're Nevadans first.
We are.
And we're Americans first.
It's not that hard to do. Again, you go to the congress.gov/members, put in your address. Your leadership's going to show up. You're their constituent. They love to hear from us, and they want to hear what's going on because they hear from a lot of other professional people on a daily basis, but they hear from the ground up, from the grassroots. They love it. I know they welcome me. I'm a nobody. I'm just a guy in the insurance business, but I've been dealing with them via email and sometimes Zoom calls. But I'll see them very shortly on October 13th. Whether they address it or not, if they have, I'll have my conversations. But I love them to ask me questions too, what I see on the streets and whatnot. And so it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. When you go, you're bipartisan. We're there as Nevadans.
Yep.
And that's how we have to address things because those political differences that we really don't have all the details to, it's sometimes hard to argue when we don't really know what we're talking about.
And some people say, well, why don't we just have national health care? And you know what? I'm married to a Canadian, and I've seen their health care. It's a national health care, but it can take you forever to get a doctor's appointment. It can take you forever to get the right kind of care. My brother-in-law had a condition that he could only get solved by a doctor in Toronto, and he lived in Vancouver. He waited 7 months to make the trip to Toronto to see his doctor. The doctor didn't come to him. He went to the doctor. 2 months after he saw him, he passed away because it didn't get taken care of early enough. There's no right program out there when you start thinking that way. I think we have the best medicine in the world. What we want to do now is make it so that everyone wins.
Yeah, we need to. So one last thought, when it comes to everyone's opinion, I learned this from my dad years ago. If you imagine a circle, right? Mm-hmm. And you imagine the center of the circle, like a pie, you got the middle of it.
Right.
Imagine everyone is standing around the circle, or all of America standing around that circle on the outside, and the topic's in the middle. We all have a different perspective, don't we?
Yeah.
And so sometimes we need to learn to listen to others because they see something that maybe we haven't seen. And so that's how we can come together and start to listen a little bit more.
We're going to finish this particular podcast right now, and we'll see what happens in Washington. You can always contact us, of course, at the radio station. My number here is 702-258-0285, 702-258-0285. It's listed, so you can find it on the internet if you look. Chris's number is 702-673-1999. It's called Your Insurance Agency. And thanks for taking the time, Chris. I know you have a tremendous amount of knowledge in this area because you spend so much time working with these people in government to get a better deal for us and to keep us safe from the things that could happen. But you made a really interesting comment before we started, and you said, insurance companies, we don't want them to be in a position where they don't want to sell insurance because they'll just invest it.
Correct.
In other things. It won't be in people. We don't want to get to that point, but we could if we're not careful.
It's true. We're already starting to see it.